So, moving on from Dak Prescott to Andy Reid. Now, I wanted to bring a few things up last time, but I really didn't get a chance to. And I was going to talk about the whole Eric Bieniemy thing. I thought I was able to save a few audio clips, but I wasn't able to. Let me just say that Andy Reid is on my bad list right now. And there's a reason why. Ever since we fired Andy Reid, he's done nothing but bad to the Philadelphia Eagles organization. And he doesn't owe us anything. But I think that, at the place he is right now, losing another Super Bowl, what's going on with his son, I think that for him, it's a lot of karma. Now, what do I mean? So, in 2015, Doug Peterson, who was our previous head coach, was Andy Reid's offensive coordinator. And as the Chiefs' offensive coordinator, he didn't call the plays. Also, as their offensive coordinator, he had an inappropriate relationship, or he had an affair, with a secretary on the Chiefs. This is allegedly, by the way. I preface this as, this is allegedly. Allegedly, this happened. And when Andy Reid found out about this alleged situation, allegedly, Andy Reid does what he usually does when problems occur. He basically said, knock it off. Doug Peterson's wife was best friends with Andy Reid's wife, so that's very awkward that your wife is friends with your boss's wife. Probably not a good thing to have when you're allegedly having an affair with a secretary. And basically, Andy Reid, knowing that Doug Peterson was on the final year of his contract, was basically like, all right, I'm not going to keep this guy because I got this better guy, who I think was the quarterback's coach, Matt Nagy. I got this better guy. So what I'm going to do is after, we got eliminated from the playoffs, I was just going to be like, hey, Doug Peterson is a pretty good play caller. Because he's my friend and I want to make sure that he gets a job, but, I don't really respect him that much. Because knock it off. And the team that bit was the Eagles. The Eagles, of course, who, had to deal with Chip Kelly. And they really wanted to go back to the whole Andy Reid era administration. So they were like, okay, we'll pick Doug Peterson because he's a lot like Andy Reid, which Doug Peterson's coaching style is a lot like Andy Reid's. Doug Peterson's personality is a lot like Andy Reid's. So they pick him, and then this alleged information comes out. And what the reports say happened was that Howie Roseman got in Andy Reid's face at like a GM's conference or something like that about it. He was not too happy about it. And Andy Reid was like, sit down, little guy. Eat my shorts. Eat my Hawaiian shirt. He was like, the dime is yours. That's Andy Reid lingo right there. So, if these allegations are true, which they were posted at the time, and then reposted after Doug Peterson got fired or let go, if this is true, then yeah, makes sense. Because Doug Peterson was not a good play caller at all. Especially like the last 3 years in Philly. Especially 2 out of the last 3 years in Philly. If that's true, then Andy Reid is a giant douche. I'm just going to say it right now. And I don't feel bad that you lost the Super Bowl. I don't feel bad that you are in the situation, your family's in the situation they're in right now. That might be mean-spirited. But, yeah, I mean, that's just a scumbag move. Complete scumbag move. And the bigger scumbag move was the fact that during the whole finding of the coach period. Now I can see why if it's true that the Eagles didn't really see Eric Bieniemy as their next head coach because of the distrust with Andy Reid. I totally understand that. But I don't think that was the case. The Eagles reached out to the Chiefs and asked them if the Eagles could interview Eric Bieniemy. And basically the Eagles were allotted a Zoom call the assistants from the teams that were still in the playoffs, which Eric Bieniemy and the Chiefs were still in the playoffs. And because they fired Doug Peterson late, then that meant that they didn't have that first crack at Eric Bieniemy. So they were allowed to do a Zoom call. And a week and a half goes by, the Eagles already hired Nick Sirianni. People were like, "Oh, the Eagles didn't interview Eric Bieniemy because they're racists." And during the Super Bowl, someone actually asked Andy Reid the question, "Hey, what happened with the Eagles and Eric Bieniemy?" And Andy Reid, he gets up there and he's like, "Yeah, they never were really that interested. It wasn't like a statement call of, we really want him. It was just like an inquiry." I remember at the time being like, that sounds like a total lie. Like, that's a total lie by Andy Reid. Why would Andy Reid, come out and say that, I totally denied it all. It was all denied. I denied the Eagles a chance to interview this guy. And I was like, yeah, it's the whole thing sounds like BS. And I remember every blue check mark was like, yeah, the Eagles are racist because they hired Nick Sirianni, and look, he's a stuttering stutterer, and they said that someone said that Eric Bieniemy was he wasn't good at interviewing, which I don't believe. I don't believe that either. But I wanted Eric Bieniemy too. Basically, Garofalo comes out, Mike Garofalo, and he's like, well, the Eagles did want to interview Eric Bieniemy, but they were unable to. So basically showed proof that the Eagles were unable to interview Eric Bieniemy, which I thought, and I didn't put that in the video or in the podcast because I didn't want to sound dumb, or I didn't want to sound wrong. But I deleted it, so you can't see that anymore. It's gone. But that really pisses me off that Andy Reid got up there and not only did what he did about the whole Doug Peterson thing and lying about that, but also lied about how the Eagles weren't serious about Eric Bieniemy when they were serious about Eric Bieniemy, and they got denied. My two theories were either Eric Bieniemy doesn't want to come here, or the Chiefs denied him. And the Chiefs denied him. Andy Reid is a bloody liar, and, if the Chiefs are not good next year, which I don't expect them to be bad this year, but if they're bad, I don't feel bad for Andy Reid. You reap what you sow, dude. Eventually, all the bad things in your life are just going to come back to haunt you. And sure, you have a great and talented team who happened to lose in the Super Bowl for likely a multitude of reasons. But I don't feel bad for you, dude. This was a scumbag move. Complete scumbag move. From a team, especially the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles were dragged through the mud. You got to do drag through the mud because you created this false narrative that the Eagles didn't actually inquire about Eric Bieniemy. They were just putting out feelers. You lied, dude. So I don't feel bad for anything that's going on with you right now. You reap what you sow.